For billions of years, life has clung to this fragile blue planet, balanced on the edge of chance and inevitability. But Stephen Hawking believed the truth of our beginning carries a warning, one that could decide our future. What if life wasn't a miracle but a cosmic certainty? And if that's true, what does it mean for us, for our survival, and for the universe waiting beyond the stars? Stay with me, because this story might change the way you see life itself. Subscribe to Deep Time Earth for hidden stories of our planet, cosmic mysteries, and the secrets shaping our future. A voice that echoed beyond science. There are voices in history that fade with time, and then there are voices that echo across generations, reminding us of truths we would rather not face. Stephen Hawking was one of those voices, mechanical, artificial, even monotone to some, yet it carried a weight that silenced rooms, filled auditoriums, and sparked debates around the world. Behind that voice was not just a scientist but a storyteller, someone who dared to ask questions humanity has wrestled with since the beginning. Where did life come from? Was it a divine miracle, a random spark, or something written deep in the laws of the universe itself? Hawking had a gift, not just for equations and theories, but for translating the mysteries of the cosmos into language that ordinary people could feel. He spoke in a way that reached beyond the blackboards of academia and into living rooms, headlines, and conversations. His brilliance was undeniable, but what set him apart was his ability to turn cold mathematics into stories of wonder and warning. When he spoke of black holes, we didn't just imagine distant stars collapsing. We imagined fate, time, and mortality. When he warned us about the future of life on Earth, it wasn't abstract. It was immediate. It felt like a prophecy. What gave his words even more weight was the paradox: claim divine creation, others argue for randomness, while science tries to find a middle ground, a story written in chemistry, physics, and time. Hawking did not shy away from this battlefield. He stepped directly into it, wielding the tools of science but speaking in a language that sounded almost spiritual. His suggestion was both radical and elegant. Perhaps life's beginning was not a one-time miracle, but the natural unfolding of laws that govern everything, from galaxies to atoms. If the universe itself is governed by order, then life might simply be the inevitable consequence of those rules. But Hawking's message was never just about how life began. It was also about what that beginning means for us now. In his view, understanding life's origins was not just a scientific pursuit, it was a survival necessity. Because if life could emerge from the chaos of a young Earth, then perhaps it could emerge elsewhere. And if it could emerge elsewhere, we must confront the possibility that we are not alone. His words were both thrilling and chilling. Thrilling because they hinted at a universe filled with possibility. Chilling because they reminded us that life, even here on Earth, is fragile. What made Hawking different from so many scientists before him was how he positioned these truths. He did not simply give lectures filled with data. He issued warnings, like a lighthouse guiding ships away from unseen dangers. His warnings about artificial intelligence, climate change, and even contact with extraterrestrial life were not idle speculation. They were grounded in the same logic he used to explore the beginning of time itself. When he spoke, the world leaned in, not because his predictions were guaranteed, but because they forced us to confront uncomfortable realities. Imagine this: a man who could not move a muscle without assistance, yet he commanded more attention than presidents and prime ministers. His voice was not booming, outsiders in a universe that happened to cradle us, but as products of the universe itself. In other words, the cosmos made us because it could not do otherwise. And that idea changes everything. If life is inevitable under the right conditions, then our story is not unique. There could be other worlds, other beginnings, other civilizations tracing their origins back to the same cosmic rules. And if that is true, then Hawking's questions about beginnings lead to even bigger questions about endings. How long can life survive in a universe that is constantly changing? How do we protect the fragile bubble of conditions that made us possible? These questions are not just philosophical, they are warnings. Hawking's voice may have been synthesized, but his urgency was real. He wanted us to realize that to understand the beginning of life is also to recognize its precariousness. Just as life sparked once, it could be extinguished just as easily. And for him, ignoring that truth was the greatest danger of all. Stephen Hawking was not just telling us stories of stars and atoms. He was holding up a mirror, showing us who we are, where we came from, and what is at stake. His legacy is not only in the theories he left behind, but in the way he turned science into a kind of moral compass, a way of reminding humanity that we are both miraculous and vulnerable at the same time. Backhand index pointing right transition. To truly understand why Hawking warned us, we must first journey deeper into his vision of life's most mysterious origin, the spark that turned a barren Earth into a living world. Life born from the stars. When Stephen Hawking spoke of our origins, he often reminded us of something to a mirror. But the poetry of being stardust was only the beginning. Hawking was fascinated by how these cosmic ingredients came together on Earth billions of years ago to create something astonishing: life. The young Earth was not the hospitable green and blue planet we know today. It was violent, unstable, and raw, seas boiling with volcanic activity, skies filled with lightning, and an atmosphere unrecognizable to us now. Yet within this chaos, Hawking saw a delicate balance at work. The oceans became vast laboratories, where carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, and other elements collided again and again. Simple molecules formed, broke apart, and reformed, driven by energy from the sun, heat from the planet's core, and the chemistry of water itself. Over unimaginable stretches of time, complexity began to emerge. Molecules linked into chains, chains folded into structures, and those structures began to interact with one another in ways that hinted at something alive. Most people might look at this process and call it chance, a cosmic accident, like rolling dice and getting the same number again and again until, somehow, life appears. But Hawking rejected the idea that we were merely the lucky winners of a universal lottery. For him, the laws of physics made life not only possible but inevitable. The universe, he argued, is structured in such a way that under the right conditions, matter seeks complexity, order, and self-replication. Life was not a miracle. It was a natural consequence of the cosmos being what it is. That was Hawking's great gift, to reframe existence itself as something more profound than randomness. In his view, life was written into the universe from the very beginning. From the moment stars began forging heavy elements, the story of life was already unfolding. Earth just happened to be one of the places where the script could play out. This idea changes how we see ourselves. If life is inevitable, then our existence is not an isolated miracle. It is part of a pattern that stretches across space and time. On worlds we have never seen, orbiting suns we will never visit, life may be waiting or even thriving, born from the same stardust and the same laws of physics that created us. Hawking wanted us to see ourselves not as anomalous, though resilient in many ways, are astonishingly easy to disrupt. A slight rise in temperature, a subtle change in the atmosphere, or a collapse in biodiversity could ripple outward until the balance that sustains us shatters. It is not difficult to imagine how quickly the conditions that nurtured us could become hostile to us. In Hawking's eyes, the origin of life was therefore not just a tale of beginnings, it was a reminder of endings. The very same physics that made life possible could just as easily erase it. Evolution gave us intelligence, but intelligence came with responsibility. If we ignore the fragility of our environment, we risk repeating nature's harshest lesson. Extinction is far more common than survival. This was the heart of his warning. We look at life as a miracle, something destined to last forever. Yet history tells another story. Over 99% of species that have ever lived are now gone. Dinosaurs once ruled the earth with seemingly unstoppable power, yet a single impact, one rock from the sky, wiped them out in an instant. Hawking believed we were not immune to the same fate. In fact, he believed our intelligence could make us even more vulnerable. Unlike dinosaurs, we can destroy our own home without help from the cosmos. Nuclear war, climate change, unchecked technology, each represented to Hawking a ticking clock. Our brilliance had given us tools to shape the planet, but it had also given us weapons to undo ourselves. The lesson of life's origin, the sheer improbability of its survival, was supposed to be a guide. It urged us to tread carefully, to guard the balance that allows Earth to breathe. And yet there was a deeper layer to his words. If life could arise elsewhere, then we were not alone. The origin of life was not just a local event, but a cosmic principle. That meant other planets might carry their own fragile ecosystems, their own balance of survival and risk. If intelligence evolved beyond Earth, then other civilizations might face the same dangers we do, the same narrow pathway between thriving and collapse. This perspective made Hawking's warning larger than Earth. It was not only about protecting our home, it was about recognizing the universal fragility of life. Whether on Earth or on a planet orbiting a distant star, the conditions that allow molecules to blossom into consciousness are rare, delicate, and temporary. For him, the beginning of life wasn't only about wonder, it was about responsibility. It was about recognizing that we live on borrowed time, granted by forces beyond our control. He wanted humanity to understand that our survival is not guaranteed by destiny, but by choices. By acknowledging the fragility of Earth, by respecting the narrow balance that sustains us, we could extend our story. But to take it for granted would be to gamble everything against odds we might not win. It is telling that when Hawking spoke of life, he spoke with both awe and urgency. Awe because the fact that atoms could arrange themselves into thinking beings is extraordinary. Urgency because that miracle could unravel at any moment. His warning was not born out of fear but out of clarity. He understood the scale of time, the power of the universe, and the insignificance of our place within it. And that perspective gave his words a gravity that few could ignore. To Hawking, the truth of life's beginning was a reminder of how easily it could end. If we were careless, the story that started in Stardust could close in silence. But if we listened, if we protected the fragile cradle of Earth, we could extend that story far into the future. That choice, he believed, was ours. Backhand index pointing right transition. And this fragility pushed Hawking to speak of something even more unsettling, the possibility of other life beyond Earth. Not alone in the universe. Stephen Hawking's voice carried a paradox whenever he spoke about the cosmos, hope mixed with unease, wonder intertwined with fear. When he reminded us that life might be inevitable, he was not offering comfort. He was issuing a warning, because if the universe was truly brimming with life, then our place within it became far less secure. We like to imagine first contact as something thrilling, like the stories told in films, where curious beings arrive with gifts, wisdom, and a hand of friendship. But Hawking shattered that dream. His fear was that if intelligent civilizations exist, they may not come as visitors but as conquerors. History, he reminded us, has a brutal pattern. The stronger rarely treat the weaker as equals. Think of our own world. When Europeans crossed oceans centuries ago, they did not arrive with peace and respect. They arrived with weapons, greed, and diseases that decimated entire civilizations. Hawking worried that we could be the next chapter in that cycle. Only this time, we would not be the conquerors. We would be the vulnerable ones. To him, this wasn't paranoia. It was realism. The universe is vast, and any civilization capable of reaching us would, by definition, be far more advanced than we are. Their technology would dwarf ours, just as ours once dwarfed that of tribes who lived in harmony with nature. And with such superiority comes temptation, the temptation to exploit, to dominate, or even to erase. Hawking often drew comparisons to Christopher Columbus's arrival in the Americas. For the indigenous peoples, that encounter marked the beginning of devastation. Why should we expect the story to unfold differently on a cosmic scale? Why should we assume that beings from other stars, if they exist, would treat us with kindness rather than indifference or hostility? This was the chilling truth behind his words. Life may not be rare, but safety might be. If we broadcast our existence too loudly, if we send signals into the cosmos in our eagerness to connect, we might be calling out to forces we cannot understand and cannot control. To Hawking, the most dangerous move humanity could make was to assume that intelligence equals compassion. The truth, as he saw it, was that intelligence often breeds ambition. Civilizations that rise to master the laws of physics may not have done so with peace in their hearts. They may have fought wars, consumed resources, and bent their world